So, it happened. It finally happened. Caitlin Clark basically saying that her teammates have helped her not get too many texts has now backfired. Not even backfired. We've got a journalist. We've got a journalist who, the usual journalist, just straight up lying about Caitlin Clark. Is lying about her. But before we get on to, if you guys agree, this is ridiculous, subscribe. We're trying to 35.8k by the end of the day. And one thing I do want to say is that obviously Caitlin Clark's body language, her attitude towards referees, a lot of stuff isn't ideal. Obviously, that's something that she needs to work on. But as Lisa Bluter has said, is like there is a line with it all. And that is the problem when you are a fiery competitor to the extent that Caitlin Clark is. Like, she is the most fiery of fiery competitors. And that's sometimes the problem with that, is that when a big reason why she's as good as she is that when she runs hot, she runs super hot. She has non-stop energy. She plays on the edge. She plays with her emotions. And if you take that away from Caitlin Clark, she goes to crap. But she does need to control them better. Like, look, she is a 22-year-old. She's a 22-year-old. She will as her career goes on. I have no question about that. And this is coming from, like, if there's anyone in this video that's watching that's ever played tennis, you all, like, especially growing up, you played tennis at a high enough level. Like, I was pretty okay when I was younger. And a lot of people, myself included, lose their minds on the court. You'll play with your emotions. Your emotions get you super high, they get you super low. And it's just a roller coaster. And as you get older, you learn to deal with that. And I think Caitlin Clark will learn to deal with that. Supposedly, she's 100 times better now than she was when she first went into Iowa. She's been like this all the way through college. And hopefully, it continues to improve. But obviously, it's the whole thing, the joke about like the Caitlin Clark de-escalation committee, where the team are like trying to make sure she doesn't get a technical foul. And we've now got a journalist who has said this. So I'm not going to show who the journalist is, and I will block their name from there. So here is my unsolicited opinion on Caitlin Clark and the whole de-escalation committee. Caitlin Clark behaves and exists like a white teenage boy, including using privileges that come with being one. What are you on about? What are you talking about? Like, I'm like, what are you actually talking about? You've just said buzzwords. It may be all giggles among teammates for now, but getting your mostly black teammates to babysit you and finding it funny, especially when they start getting texts themselves as a result of your actions, has a bad ring to it. Who's gotten it? Like, that is just lying. Like, you've just made up something. You have literally just made up something off the top of your head. Nobody has ever gotten a technical foul. Like, nobody has ever gotten a technical foul because of something Caitlin Clark has done on this team. The only time you could argue it is when Caitlin Clark was about to get tossed, I think. She was in Seattle at the start of the year. I think she was about to get tossed. And this is like in May. I remember vividly because it was before I did live streams. I was literally in France. I was recording, like, this is before, I think I had 3,000 subscribers at the time. And Caitlin Clark's about to get tossed. And Christy Sides runs onto the floor and takes a technical foul. Just to make sure that Caitlin Clark didn't get tossed, as she took the technical foul instead. So, ironically, Christy Sides is not in this group of players. And what are you talking about when, like, Aaliyah Boston got her tech, by the way, which was rescinded, because Aaliyah Boston and Tiara McCown got into it. So what did Caitlin Clark do? What a good teammate should do. Try to get in the middle of it. You know the way everyone's talking about teammates not protecting Caitlin Clark throughout the year? These teammates have been doing that. This team has elite team chemistry. They do. I don't think any of them are fighters, but they have elite team chemistry and they're not going to back down. Caitlin Clark got in the middle of Tiara McCown and Aaliyah Boston. Tiara McCown is 6'8" and a monster. Like, she could... I genuinely, like, there are a large percentage... Like, she is... We saw her, she was physically dominant over Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah Boston's strong. I think there are a lot of NBA players that I would take Tiara McCown in a fight over. Like, and Caitlin Clark stood in front of Tiara McCowan. And again, like, what was going to happen in that scenario? If Tiara McCowan wanted to swing at Caitlin Clark, she'd be knocked out cold, probably. But still, no one's going to swing. No one's swinging in these games. It is all just stand in for your team, push, just make sure you have each other's back, which the Fever are doing, which Caitlin Clark is doing. It says it makes it impossible to appreciate Caitlin Clark beyond her basketball, especially when you have players who are much more poised than her being called the most horrible things. Like, and again, these players are called the most horrible things on Twitter. And I don't understand why people are equating the actual fans to Twitter trolls and psycho stalkers like Paige Beckers has, and saying they're all the same people. No, they're three different people. There are fans, there are Twitter trolls, and there are psycho stalkers. They are different people. They are all different people. And the reality of this is the more people that are watching, unfortunately, the more people that watch the WNBA, the more there are of everyone. The problem is that if you gain 1 million fans, you gain 5 psycho stalkers, and you gain 100 Twitter trolls, there's still 100 extra Twitter trolls and 5 extra psycho stalkers. It is the unfortunate truth of it all. But it's not her fault. And none of this is her fault. Who are much more poised being called horrible things. That is the horrible reality of sports. And by the way, no one has been called more horrible things than Caitlin Clark. Especially here, you basically called her a racist. And then you see here, well, obviously it's shown who it is. When has her teammate ever gotten a tech? I wonder what she's talking about. She almost got her world rocked by Tiara for going in between her and AB during their altercation. It had nothing to do with her, but that's what a good teammate does. That's what I said too. Christy's gotten 1 tech the whole season. She shut her comments off. For heaven's sake, not another journalist with a holier-than-thou opinion. The reality of this is, look, if you don't like Caitlin Clark because of this, fine. And I mean this, fine. The reality of this is that if there is a justified reason to not like Caitlin Clark, it's nothing to do with basketball. You cannot like Caitlin Clark the person. You cannot like Caitlin Clark the person on the floor. Because the reality is that like a person's actual personality versus their sports personality are two different things. They are. Because a lot of the time, people just, it's much harder to control your emotions on the sports pitch, on the court, if you're playing individual sport. Like how many people, again, watching this, have played golf and some of the nicest people you will ever meet are psychopaths. Like losing their mind on the floor or on the course. Like that is the unfortunate thing with sports, is it becomes harder to control your emotions. And Caitlin Clark doesn't do a very good job of that. But this is a justifiable reason to not like Caitlin Clark. That is fine. But to make it deeper, then Caitlin Clark is bad at controlling her emotions. That is simply put what it is. Caitlin Clark is not very good at that. That's probably I'm not going to say it's a weak point for game, because I don't think it lets it affect her game too much. But that is something she needs to work on. And I agree. If you don't like Caitlin Clark because of that, that's fine. But don't go on this like holier than thou, like using all these crazy buzzwords to try accuse her of, I don't even know. She's a really good basketball player who's just not the best at controlling her emotions. Like how many players have we seen like this? You've seen like Novak Djokovic in tennis is the same. I'm trying to think. He wasn't as good a player, but Grayson Allen was the same. Like, you've seen a lot of these players. I'm trying to think who else. LeBron James at times hasn't been the best at it, at times in his career. Young players in sports, especially, again, if you were looking at tennis, how many young players are like that? But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it is completely fine to dislike a person. It is completely fine to dislike a person for a reason. But like when you try to make this 100 times deeper than it is, and try to make one single person who is doing something that's unbelievably common in sports not be great at controlling your emotions, and try to make that into some bigger gotcha point about society in general, and not just an issue of a genuine flaw, probably the one genuine flaw with Caitlin Clark. It's just ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous, because the reality of this is it does not go deeper than that. It does not go any deeper than her not being able to control her emotions particularly well, and her teammates knowing she's a generational talent, they're better with her on the floor, and her teammates trying to make sure that she stays on the floor. It is not deeper than that.